Most people assume that once you reach a high income, budgeting stops mattering. But the truth is, that's often the moment it matters the most. Some of the highest earning families that come work with me tell me the same thing when we first meet. It goes something like this: Daniel, we make great money, but I still feel like we don't have control over it. And they don't say that because they're irresponsible. But when income rises fast, lifestyle tends to rise quietly right alongside it. And over time, something important starts to disappear: the clarity and intention around where their money is actually going. If you're earning a great income, but sometimes feel like the money moves faster than you expected, this video is going to make a lot of things click. In this video, I'm going to show you why high income doesn't create wealth, how lifestyle inflation traps even the very successful families, and the simple budgeting structure that helps high earners control their money without feeling restricted. But before we get into the budgeting framework, there's one behavior pattern I see with high income earners over and over. And once you see it, you can't really unsee it. There's something important to understand about how lifestyle changes when income increases. Think back to the first time you got a meaningful raise. Maybe you upgraded apartments. Maybe you bought a nice car. Maybe you started taking better vacations. None of those decisions felt irresponsible. In fact, they probably felt earned. But something interesting happened after a few months. Those upgrades stopped feeling like luxuries. They started feeling like normal life. And once something becomes normal, the brain starts looking for the next upgrade. Now here's a question you need to answer. Do you want to be wealthy or just act wealthy? Because those two paths often start exactly the same way. Higher income, bigger house, a newer car, better vacations, maybe a vacation home, maybe a country club membership, maybe more convenient spending because frankly, you've worked hard and you can finally afford it. Now, let me be very clear about something. None of these things are inherently bad, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with enjoying the rewards of your success. But here's the catch most people don't see coming. When income rises, lifestyle tends to rise quietly right alongside it. A slightly larger mortgage, a slightly nicer car, a few more dinners out each month, a vacation that used to feel special slowly becomes the new normal. And none of those decisions feel irresponsible in the moment. They feel earned. But over time, something subtle begins to happen. Income grows, but savings doesn't grow at the same pace. This is called lifestyle inflation. And here's the surprising part. This is something I see quite often with the families that come to work with me. Before working together, many of them felt like they were earning great money, but still didn't feel fully in control of where it was going. Which is exactly why this conversation about budgeting becomes so important. Not because you need to restrict your life, but because without a plan, rising income often creates rising expenses instead of rising net worth. Now, when people hear the word budget, a lot of them immediately picture something restrictive. They think about spreadsheet, cutting costs, saying no to things they enjoy. Almost like going back to those early career years when money was tight and every dollar had to be carefully managed. But that's not really what budgeting looks like for high-income households. In reality, every wealthy family still uses some form of a budget. Not because they can't afford things, but because they want their money aligned with their priorities. Here's the thing. Budgeting isn't about restriction. It's about awareness. It's about control, and it's about intentionally deciding where your money goes instead of letting it drift wherever lifestyle happens to take it. Another way to think about this is a good budget simply gives your money a job. Sometimes it's to support your home and your family. Some of it's to support the lifestyle you enjoy today. And some of it quietly builds the financial freedom you want in the future. And that balance matters because this isn't about extreme frugality or sacrificing your life today for some distinct financial goal that may or may not arrive. Now, I fully support the idea of financial independence, and I help and work with the clients to reach that. But I also believe that you shouldn't have to completely sacrifice the present just to prepare for the future. The goal is to build a lifestyle that feels comfortable now, while also making sure your income is steady, building long-term wealth. So the real question becomes this: how do you structure your money in a way that supports both? Before we get into a budgeting framework, it helps to pause for a minute and do a quick self-check, because lifestyle inflation rarely shows up as a dramatic moment. It usually shows up as small, gradual shifts. So ask yourself a few simple questions. Has your income increased over the last few years, but has your savings rate changed at all? Do you ever look at your bank or credit card statement and think, we make great money, where's it all going? When you receive a raise or a bonus, does most of it get quietly absorbed into lifestyle? If any of those feel familiar, you're not alone. This is exactly how lifestyle inflation tends to work. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens gradually. And most people don't even know it's going on. And that's why having a simple structure for your money becomes so important. Not because something is wrong, but because without structure, income naturally drifts toward lifestyle. And a good budgeting framework is what brings that clarity and intention back. So once you have that awareness, the next step is giving your money a simple structure. And one framework I often use as its starting point with clients is something called the 50-30-20 rule. Now, this rule isn't meant to be perfect. It's not meant to be rigid. Think of it more as a simple guide that helps you quickly see whether your spending is roughly aligned with your priorities. And importantly, this framework is based on take-home pay, not your gross pay, because the money that actually hits your bank account is the money that needs a job. So here's how the structure works. First, 50% of your take-home pay should cover your needs. That's roughly half of your take-home pay goes towards the core expenses that support your household. These are the expenses that keep your household running, but ideally, they don't consume your entire income, because if fixed costs grow too large, they can quietly limit your flexibility in the future. Now next, 30% go towards your wants. About 30% of your income can go towards lifestyle spending. This includes things like restaurants, travel, entertainment, shopping, and the upgrades that make life more enjoyable. This category is where you give yourself permission to enjoy the success you've worked hard to create. The final 20% is where real long-term wealth begins to take shape. This portion of your income goes towards things like additional retirement contributions, brokerage investments, building an emergency fund, and paying down debt. This is the category that quietly turns income into net worth over time. Because if this portion isn't protected, lifestyle inflation tends to absorb the difference. Again, these numbers aren't strict rules. They're simply a clear starting point that helps you see whether your money is supporting the life you want both today and in the future. Once you understand the framework, the next step is actually putting a simple system in place. And for most high-income households, this doesn't need to be complicated. What matters most is clarity and a bit of structure. The first step is understanding your real spendable income, not your salary, not the number on your offer letter, your after-tax take-home pay. This is the actual number that hits your bank account from salary, bonuses, equity compensation, or any other income sources. A lot of high earners think about money in terms of gross pay, but spending happens based on what actually lands in your account. So getting that number clear is the foundation for everything else. The next step is simply looking at your current spending. Go back through the last 3 to 6 months of transactions and start grouping expenses into 3 broad categories: needs, lifestyle spending or wants, and savings or investing. This step often produces a few surprises: subscriptions that quietly stack up, Amazon transactions, dining out more than expected, travel or convenience spending that gradually expanded. None of these are necessarily a problem, but awareness is what brings spending back under control. Once you see where your money is currently going, compare it to the 50-30-20 structure. Again, this isn't about perfection. It's simply a way to check whether your income is flowing in roughly the direction you want it to. If the needs category is creeping far beyond half of your income, that can be a sign that fixed costs, especially your housing, may be limiting your future flexibility. One of the most powerful changes you can make is automating the saving and investing portion of your income. Instead of saving whatever is left at the end of the month, flip the process around. automatically send money towards retirement accounts, brokerage investments, emergency savings, or debt payoff. When these contributions happen automatically, lifestyle naturally adjusts around what remains. And it's also important to have a plan for bonuses or other lump sum income. When a bonus hits your account, decide in advance how much will go towards investing, how much will support lifestyle, and how much must be used for other priorities. And don't forget the additional tax component. Because if there isn't a plan for that money, it almost always gets absorbed into spending. And finally, when income increases, have a plan for how that increase will be used. A simple rule many people follow is investing at least half of any raise or bonus. So if income raises by $20,000, maybe half of that supports lifestyle improvements and the other half goes towards savings and investing. That small habit helps ensure that rising income steadily translates into a rising net worth. And this is actually one of the things I help clients build. A simple system that makes sure their income is intentionally supporting both their lifestyle today and their long-term goals. Now, when you zoom out, the real purpose of budgeting isn't restriction. It's clarity and understanding. You're understanding where your money is going and making sure it's supporting the life you actually want to build. Because without a plan, let's be honest, income has a natural tendency to drift towards lifestyle. Expenses slowly expand. Upgrades, they become normal. And years can pass without a meaningful increase in your net worth. Now, if you follow a structure like this, something interesting starts to happen. Your income stops drifting into lifestyle and starts building real financial security. But there's one piece of this system that a lot of high-income families overlook, especially early on, and that's having a proper emergency fund. Because even if you're earning great income, unexpected events can still disrupt your financial plan if you don't have the right cash reserves in place. So in the next video, I'm going to walk through how high-income families should think about building an emergency fund, including how much you should actually keep in cash and where that money should live. Click right here to watch that video next.